Hey there, Dave Paulides, Canadian Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. And this is a missing persons video. And we're going to be talking about some very intriguing cases. Yes, and we've got some really good letters. So hold on to your hat. We've had a number of missing person cases within the last 3 months where young men have disappeared and were later found in bodies of water. And it's becoming a new thing. Again, it was a big deal back in 20 years ago in Wisconsin. It's happening again in Wisconsin and in other parts of the US. So, something to start keeping an eye on. Usually young men, highly intellectual, athletic. Nobody sees them disappear, and nobody understands really what happens. The reason I'm laughing is I'm home alone today, and I'm babysitting. My dog. Yes, we got a new puppy a few months back, and her name is Huck, H-U-C-K. Hey. And Huck is a Great Pyrenees. And it's kind of a weird story how we ended up getting Huck. But last year, Angie and I were picking huckleberries way out in the middle of nowhere. And we're not that far apart. But I look over and I see a giant bear coming down the I just happened to look up. And I see a big bear, black bear coming down the trail. It was huge. And there's huckleberries everywhere, which is a good thing and a good time to see a bear because you know that they're just porked out on huckleberries and they're not really interested in you. But I slowly backed away, got Angie, and I said, hey, let's go to a new area. Let's give this big bear his room, his space. So we left. And let me see if I can get Huck to come up here for a sec. Huck, hey, come here. There you go. This is Huck. And Huck is only 7 months old, and she weighs about 75 pounds. She'll probably end up weighing about 120. She is a wonderful, loving dog. Okay, I'll let you go. There you go. She's pretty big for only 7 months. But the story behind Great Pyrenees is something I never knew until we started to have encounters with bears, was that the ranchers in Montana all have Great Pyrenees. And the reason they have them is that they're great protectors and they don't mess around. The males get up to 150, 160 pounds. Females are smaller. Very, very loving dog. Really, really loyal. She's sitting at my feet right now. Really loyal. And they'll fight to the death to protect you and the livestock. And a normal ranch in Montana has 2 or 3 of them. And they work 24/7. And they prowl around the outside of the ranch. They keep predators away. They'll go one-on-one with the grizzly bear. And I'm not kidding. The place where we got ours was a ranch. And they had a whole bunch of Pyrenees, and they just had a new litter. We just happened to stop by. And the rancher, the lady told us that they'd been there for, I guess, 25 years. And years past, they always lost at least one piece of livestock. A sheep, a calf, something to grizzly bear. And she said about 8-9 years ago, they got 2 Great Pyrenees. And what they did was they just let them run around the yard. And they have it inbred in them to protect. And they said that since they've got the Pyrenees 8-9 years ago, they haven't lost one piece of livestock. They said it's the best insurance policy any rancher could have. So Angie and I talked about it. And we both had German Shepherds in the past. We were going to get that. And then we thought, well, maybe Pyrenees. The Great Pyrenees, we went in, we met the litter, And this one puppy kept coming up and jumping up on me. It was Huck. And the woman, we didn't look. The woman says, "Oh yeah, it's a male." And they knew we wanted a male. And we were just hooked. And we thought, we talked about it before, that we would name our dog Huck because of huckleberries. So we ended up getting Huck. We get home, and Angie and I look and go, "You know what? That's a female." But we're going to keep the name. She's bouncing. She's just touching the tripod right now. But super, super smart dogs. And they're really, really fun. And what kind of the thing for me is it gave me a different outlook on life. I'd been focused on Ben for a long time, and I needed, hey, there you go, good girl. I'll push her a little bit away from the tripod so it doesn't keep bouncing on you. And Huck gave me something different to look at in life, something different to come home to. And being a puppy, they're so dependent on you. And even though it's 7 months, she's huge. She still acts like a puppy. She'll come over and she'll sit on you and put a paw on you, and it's just great. And she's gonna be our fishing dog. She's gonna be our trail dog, and she's gonna love life. She's already loving life here. So I'm blessed. But now you met Huck, and you'll probably see her more, especially when I'm filming in the outdoors. Okay, let's get with the letters. Hey Dave, before I tell you my short and unsettling tale of seeing a humanish naked person crashed along the highway in Pennsylvania in 2016, I wanted to thank you for your strength, for the emotion you show, and for the attention you give to the topic of mental health. I have CPTSD and also see the great benefit of pursuing NAMI classes. I'm a suicide survivor, and sometimes when the survivor's guilt hits my brain, I think of folks like you and it makes me horrifically sad. But you usually end up on the forefront of my mind, and I respect and am very proud of your dedication to the topic. The more we talk about it from our respective perspectives, the less of a taboo it remains. 100%. I've told almost everybody, some of my best friends won't talk to me. Still. We talk in groups, texting, but as far as them calling me, they won't call me. It's like they don't want to ask how I'm doing. They don't want to ask or think about anything regarding Ben. And my grief counselors talked to me about that. It's a long story to it. Now to my story. In 2016, I worked evenings at Talmadge, Ohio, right at exit 29, Route 532 on Interstate 76. Wow. I would often be too hyped up to sleep and need to unwind and clear my brain space. So after work, I would jump on I-76 eastbound, head into Pennsylvania, following 76 to Cranberry Township, and double back for home. I worked until 11 p.m., so by the time I was heading back home, it was pushing 1 a.m. I have a distinct memory one morning of coming up on the far east end of Lake Milton in Ohio. The trees had long since given up their leaves, and the night sky was just black, no stars, no nothingness. I remember being the only car on my side of the highway for miles. It was rather dark, so I had my bright lights on, and up ahead on the right side of the highway, about 300 yards before the bridge started, I glimpsed a pale, flesh-colored, hairless, and super sinewy-looking person crouched down with its hands cupped together in the way someone would do in scooping water from a creek. I acknowledged that it was late, and I was slightly fatigued, but I just can't be convinced that I was hallucinating. I remember letting off the gas and even tapping the brakes. Might have been doing 50 or so, and by the time I passed the creature, I know I saw something real because this thing turned to look at me, and it had no face. Not one like ours anyway, more like indentations where our eyes, nose, and mouth would normally be. I have no idea what I was holding, if anything at all, but it had arms and hands and was cradling some imaginary thing in its palm. Its physical build reminded me of folks battling anorexia. Not much loose skin and very pronounced bone structure underneath. No one believes me, and never did. I usually get bristled about that, but I don't care now. I know what I saw. Actually, I have chills just typing this. I'm sure you have heard things 100 times, Dave, but Dave, I assure you, I saw something out there and I've never seen anything like it since. Curious to know your thoughts. I believe you. I believe you saw something. I don't know what it was. But one thing I will tell you, iced tea with stevia. I will tell you that I had the same comments back when I wrote my first 2 Bigfoot books. When witnesses signed affidavits, when witnesses sat down with Harvey Pratt and did a forensic sketch of what they observed, and Harvey was 100% convinced, as well as I was, that they saw what they said. But later on, people would say, oh, they didn't really see that. They just saw a bear, or they just saw this, or saw that. No. Big difference between a bear and a human. Snout, build, stature, profile. No. And most of the people that saw this biped had lived in the woods and had seen dozens of bear in their lives. I don't think people give enough credit to others in what they observed. Our mind goes to places where we can reconcile the observation, either through, oh, the person was drunk, or they were high on drugs or something. But no. You see, if we actually thought about the number of sightings of UFOs, Bigfoot, aliens, etc. Hey, what are you doing? You just keep bumping it. If we thought about that and the number of times it's happened, you'd understand why it's probably all true. Hey, Huckles, come on, girl. Let's move this over here. There you go. Multitasking, babysitting and doing a video. If I put her in the next room, she'll end up barking, Dad, what are you doing? So she's in here with me. Next story. Hey Dave, I hope all is well for you and yours. Insightful and admirable to you to mention the religious aspect of the events at Skinwalker Ranch. These entities have been there a very long time. The earliest time mentioned in the Bible isn't Genesis, but the first book of John. As for the ruins you mentioned, I would not be surprised God creates in perfection. Looking at the neighboring planets, this isn't what we see. Genesis states that the earth became void and without form. As a result of the battle after Satan and his third fell, Genesis goes on to tell God relaxing that earth and creating man in his image, unlike man that exists when Satan and his third were given as a test, the earth to rule. Regarding these entities and some of the missing, I've tried to reason why some people are selected and some are not. Could it be that they may have helped God or some of his people in the future, which they can see? Or could it be that these people were selected because entities saw no reason for them to draw much attention? These entities can manipulate almost all of the foundational laws of the universe. They're able to fool almost anyone. They're extremely powerful and take much delight in seeing man fail. Knowing man's potential angers them. You are providing a great service and are much appreciated. I'd be interested in knowing if you have found examples of shoes or boots damaged or feet and ankles damaged. Any instances where it appears the person fell out of their shoes. Maybe some not selected because they were barefoot. I try to be cautious about what I accept because these entities are very good at what they do. I do believe that a considerable amount of what they are allowed to gather is disinformation and helps keep us at bay. I think one of the big concerns, firearms. No one would be out there if they knew that the .454 was no better than a Daisy Red Ryder. They can be prideful, which allows for an occasional mistake. Many thanks, and if there's ever anything or something I can do for you, let me know. I just read them. Next letter. Dear Dave, I wanted to email you. Hey, what are you doing? She's under my chair. This dog's always smelling, always trying to find something. And being a puppy, it all goes in her mouth. Usually it's cardboard and, hey, don't do that. Don't be eating everything. Dear Dave, I wanted to email you to say how touched I was following your last video. The 4 cases which had persons dreaming about the missing persons. Dave, I totally understand if you read no further. I know how hard you work and I don't want to waste any of your precious time. I, as a child, 10 years of age, had a very strange dream continuously for 3 months. The dream entailed me staying at my aunt's home, and one of her sons was crawling along the very high 3rd-story home's outside window ledge. In the dream, I grabbed my young 6-year-old cousin, and we both fell off the ledge. He kept falling into darkness. Whilst I was falling and lost hold of my cousin, I looked up to the ledge to see a brand new baby crawling along the same outdoor window ledge. Then I would wake up crying and confused. I would tell my aunt and my mother many times, and they told me I had an active imagination. Yeah, it's a typical answer for kids. That remained the case until the dream stopped. That day, the cousin who was on the ledge in my dream passed away suddenly with meningitis. In real life, and we as a family were flown into a terrible grief and shock. It was 2 days before Christmas, and following the funeral, my aunt was obviously so bummed. We surrounded her with love and got her through the loss as best we could. My aunt went to the doctors, and for a few weeks after my cousin passed away, she was feeling dreadful. The doctor informed her after tests that she was in fact 5 months pregnant. Wow. That's when my dreams started to be discussed in the family, as my aunt would have been unknowingly pregnant whilst my cousin had passed away. And it looked to all the family that I experienced precognitive visions of my cousin's death and the pregnancy of a new baby. Both scenarios are not amongst thoughts that could have happened. Hey, relax. You're going to knock something over here, and the public's going to be irate at you. I want them to love you. I don't want them to dislike you. I do believe Ben and yourself were right in your talks regarding the pineal gland. It does calcify as we age. I believe as children we are far more in tune with the field of information. I think we can all connect in this field of information as we are points of light, we are photons, and I believe souls can feel and observe things that we cannot explain. Sorry for the long email, sending my love and strength to you and Angie. Well, thank you. The pineal gland is an interesting entity of our third eye. And what goes on there? And, did eons ago, did we radiate certain vision that we can't account for today? If it wasn't calcified now, could we have extra sensory abilities? Look it up. Interesting topic. New letter. Hey Dave, I've been thinking about writing for you for a long time now, and I hope this is the right time to do so. I'm going to tell you some of my story in hopes that it will help you with your grief, if that's okay with you. I'm sorry if my grammar's a little off. I'm Scandinavian, but I'll do my best. When I was 22, I had my suicide carefully planned out. No one had any idea what I was going through, or what I was thinking. On the outside, I looked happy, always smiling and laughing, had lots of friends who I always loved and helping anywhere I could. To my boyfriend's despair. But everything looked great from their point of view. And I wanted it that way because I didn't want anyone to know how I really felt inside. I was ashamed of the hurt. That's interesting. I'd say the last year, almost nobody knew my despair inside, my depression. because I try to hide it. I don't want other people to feel that despair, just as she explained. It's mine. I've got to deal with it. Nobody can really help me. And I don't want them to carry my baggage. In the weeks before, further in the letter, in the weeks before my planned suicide, I was seeing what I thought was signs in the sky for me, welcoming me home. And I would stare and say, I'm coming home soon. Soon I'll be with you. I can't wait. I said this, though I didn't have any reference other than I wanted to go home. And home was there, not here, if that makes any sense. I wasn't having psychosis. I knew exactly what I was doing. I won't go into everything leading to this, because it's a lot, and that's not why I'm telling you this. If someone is serious about taking their life, they won't tell anyone because they don't want to be stopped. When I was in that state of being, it was pure hell to be alive. Every minute, every day was torture for me, and I saw no other way out. I made sure that my boyfriend and I had great few days before I was to depart, and everything was planned. I disconnected the phone line, made sure that the cell phones were off, and this was early Sunday morning, maybe 4 or 5 a.m., made sure my boyfriend was sound asleep, and that nothing possible was going to wake him up too early. It is horrible to do with him. It is horrible to do with him in the house, but at the time I didn't see it as any other way because he was abusing me. I took a lot, and I mean a lot of pills, hundreds of pills, that I knew would kill me. I could feel the effect of them before I was finishing them all. It was a lot, and then I was gone. Next thing I remember is being pushed into my body again. Oh my God, the pain. The body is too small, and it felt like I was forced into it, and it was suffocating me. The physical pain was horrendous, and I woke up in the hospital with everyone in shock around me. I don't know how, but somehow things happened that Sunday morning that never ever happens, and I was found. I was so angry. I cried for weeks and was so depressed and shocked, really, because it didn't work. I'll make this short. I tried again. It didn't work. And one last time, it didn't work. The last time I stood outside my body watching myself do what I did, and I woke up in the hospital. I was smiling, and I said I wouldn't do it anymore because I'm not supposed to. Nobody believed me, and I don't blame them. Now, why am I telling you this, you might ask? It's because I want you to know that we don't go before it's our time to go. And I've come to believe that we choose this life and experiences before we come here. We are here to learn, for our souls to grow and make this world better. Pain and grief is the top gun of experiences when learning every specter of love. Think about it. We can't really appreciate the emotions of love before we experience loss. Life can have many outcomes depending on people's choices, because we have free will, right? I don't believe in chance or luck, but I do believe we have a team of helpers that we can't see with our human eyes. But some things are destined to happen, like death, and as cruel as it seems, it was Ben's time to go. We just don't remember these things because if we did, we wouldn't experience what we are here for. Ben was helping you making this world a better place. You just can't remember that this was your plan. No, I don't. I don't like that plan. I bet he's right there with you with a big smile and very proud of his dad. And you, sir, are the kind of human we all should be. I have nothing but great respect for you. And what you stand for. You really do make this world a better place, Dave. Lots of hugs from a villager. Wow. It's a tough life. That is a tough life. My life has not been that tough. I've had a year and 5 months of horrible agony, but nothing like this lady. I'm glad she found peace. Dave, I hope this message finds you and yours well. Came across your channel early last year after watching both the Missing 411 movies on Amazon. My curiosity was piqued, and shortly after that I became a subscriber and regular viewer. The letters and missing persons segments are my favorites, but I don't miss the factual news either. Thank you. One of your most recent missing persons videos involved how dreams led to finding missing people and reminded me of something that happened to me. It's not quite the same thing as dreaming where something or someone missing was located, but it touches on something similar, and maybe you and one of the villagers have had a similar experience. In 2010, I was already living on my own for some time when my parents decided to move. They held a large tag sale, and in the midst of trying to help organize and manage things prior to and during the event, I neglected to bring home a camping axe, which I'd grown very fond of. The day came and went, and my parents moved to their new home. With that, I'd completely forgotten about the axe until about 2013 when I realized it was missing. I asked my parents about it, and I must have combed over every square inch of their new home searching for it, and then some before giving up. It still stayed somewhere in the back of my mind, bothering me that I never knew what had happened to it. About 2 years later, I was driving to visit my parents. Their new home was in the same town, and I decided for nostalgia's sake to take the road that passed by my old home. As I approached the driveway, I saw a for sale sign planted in the yard, and my eyes immediately darted up the hill to the cluster of trees surrounding the house. It looked dark, given it was dusk, but empty. It was at that very moment I felt something. It was like hearing a voice, but there was no voice. It was neither external or unfamiliar. But at that very moment, I had the absolute truth in my mind, and I gently came to a halt and reversed back up the street to the start of the driveway. At first, I felt apprehensive. I didn't know what came over me, but I trusted, and I slowly made my way up the driveway, thinking that I would say if the current if I could, it says say, but if I could see if this current inhabitant still lived there. I was sure I wouldn't be a welcome guest, but to my relief, I found the home empty. With one of those realtor lockboxes clamped on the front door, we were burgled at one point in that home, and after that I learned where the weak points were in the security. I had a secret entrance, so to speak, which I used this time. Immediately I felt a strong sense of nostalgia for the home I loved. Also knew that I wasn't welcome there and made haste. I went straight to the basement and found the power still on, and lo and behold, my trusted axe was hanging against a beam. Albeit a little rusted, it was there. The feeling that came after I cannot put into words, but this experience stayed with me, and your video reminded me of it. Now in hindsight, I wouldn't have trespassed as I had, but something came over me at that moment, and it led to finding something that had been lost for me for years. Though I can share plenty more stories and thoughts, I will save them for another time. Thanks for all you do, and keep the fight up, the good fight. Ben Shirley watches proudly over you. You know, maybe there's something about that axe that's important that you just don't realize. Maybe there's some spiritual significance to it that you need to understand. I don't know. Next story. Any success I've had with ESP has been enhanced by my putting myself into what is best compared to, and I think exactly like a hypnotic trance, characterized by deep, comfortable, wonderful breathing and defocusing of vision in the most pleasant way, and then focusing on the goal desired with relaxed, gentle joy and no expectations. I think no drugs, no smoking, healthy diet, and exercise are the great help to these skills, so maybe the pineal being detoxificated is important. I believe getting a good understanding of what our spirit is might be helpful as well. Here's a spiritual exercise that takes under a minute. This is pretty good. Close your eyes and make a picture of a dog. Then answer this question. Who's looking at the dog? Many say, my mind, my eyes. But the fact is, the eyes are closed. The mind is the screen. So, who's looking at the dog? Most come to realize I am, and that's the real them. Not their eyes, not their mind, them, the I, the spirit. We don't have a spirit. We are the spirit. We have a body. When people connect more to themselves as a spirit, I think they have better luck with spiritual communication and ESP when also using the above state of physical and mental relaxation. These folks locating 411 victims in their dreams are very relaxed. Some might claim that they are free of their bodies, able to make their worldly contact, and of course the results prove something unusual happened. Edgar Cayce was known to go into a deep trance sleep and contact all sorts of health information for people, not even in their presence, and that he never met in person, if we're to believe the stories about him. I love today's video, cases and others. You sure got me thinking. Thank you. You know, that's one thing about my videos. If I can get you to think after the video's over, roll it around. A long time ago, I was with George Norrie. We're at a conference, and we're talking about the power of prayer. And he was talking about, I think I asked him if I was listening to a certain show, and he asked everyone to pray for someone. And I asked him if he ever heard any results from that. And he said, Dave, there's really power in prayer. When hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands pray together, there's power in that. So how would that power work? I understand the religious belief. Is there a scientific aspect to support that? Or is it something beyond science that we can't explain? Okay, the title of this is Missing Physicists. New letter. The letter starts with, you're assuming that a physicist operates on the same mental plane normal people do. People of high intellect frequently have strange offset personalities that are primarily left brain. Consider Nikola Tesla, for instance. The man spent most of his life in isolation from the world. Physicists have a tendency to think in terms of logic rather than emotion. Look into the physicists that disappeared. I bet you'll find that they moved far away from home to indulge in the field they're in. Separating from family and friends for truth and an opportunity to be part of a cutting-edge technology could be a powerful motivator for some. Giving up stature in society for the pursuit of knowledge in their craft would seem logical. I believe certain types are vetted and offered an opportunity they can't refuse. Makes a lot of sense if you think about it. The government has to get scientists for their black programs from somewhere, and it certainly isn't from the military itself. Your thoughts? My thoughts. My thoughts are, watch the news video I did yesterday. And watch the segment I did where I talked about one physicist and one former military analyst in naval intelligence that both went to work for the same company that does contracting work for the government. That's how they get people to work for them. They don't need to scoop them and do some deep, dark, secret stuff to get them off the face of the earth. Just hire them. What's the big deal? Hire them. This company did just that. A physicist we talked about right here on the show. Go watch the news segment. So, we come to the missing person part of the show. It really bothers me that so many people put a timestamp on this video when the missing person segment starts. I'm not just saying this for my own edification, but I truly believe that the letters I read to you are as important, if not more important, than the stories I give you. Because we're pushing the limit on our knowledge. There are some brilliant people out there watching right now that would make me look like the dummy in the room. And I've read many of their letters. Thank you for being patient with me and hanging in there. But if we all could join together and put our knowledge base and our skills together, you can figure out a lot. But if you're just here for the entertainment aspect of me talking to you about some missing people, while I appreciate you being here, you're not doing us any good. We really need you putting your brain to the mat and helping us. So, first story regards a 15-year-old young man named Ken Herron. Disappeared October 30th, 1920 in Cascade Canyon, about 22 miles northwest of East Las Vegas, New Mexico. Now, when I heard the location of this, it didn't ring because I've never heard of Cascade Canyon, New Mexico. But as with everything else, why I map things, when I mapped it, I said, holy cow. I'll get to that in a second. So he was deer hunting with his older brother, and they got separated. It snowed the night of October 30th, about 18 inches. Harold, his older brother, was lost the next day, Sunday. He didn't know where Kenneth was. Figured he was lost too. But Harold made it out to a local ranch Sunday night. And he asked if Kenneth had made it back to their hunting camp, and they said no. So their father was a Divine Baptist minister, a very famous man. And immediately he knew that at least one boy was missing, and he started to rally assistance from that part of New Mexico. Well, a man named Walter Naylor, who was the head of the New Mexico Cowboys Association, lived in the area and immediately organized a massive search and rescue. And in that area, you get 100 people together to do anything, that's massive. And they rode an area 6 feet apart on horses. And they went right through and turned around and came back in a grid pattern. And it was in the area where Harold had last seen Kenneth. Now, let's stop there for a second. There's a map of, this is Las Vegas, East Las Vegas, over on this side. Well, this is the area of Cascade Canyon that they were hunting in. Now, what made me fall out of my chair is this Elk Mountain and Santa Fe ski areas right here. It's about 20 miles between point to point. 20, 25 miles. There's a cluster of missing people right here. A whole bunch of missing people right here. And if you're ever in Santa Fe, the road up to the ski resort is really pretty. And if it's in the summer, you can stop at the ski resort and it's closed, but you can have a picnic out there. One of the stories I told you about not too long ago involved some boys who disappeared at that ski area. And when searchers came for them a couple days later, they were hiding. And they said, why are you hiding? They said, we thought you might be the ape people. Yeah, that's what they said. But they kept looking for the boys for over 10 days. Father put out a $500 reward to keep people in the field looking. See, Kenneth was an extreme outdoorsman, knew his area around. Even though he was 15, he had hunted for many years, was tough, athletic. They didn't think he'd die. Well, after 2 weeks, with snow, cold, they gave up. Now, if you fast forward 3 years, October 23rd of 1923, some hunters were going up a valley, and they came across a hip bone, and they thought it was human. And they thought that there was a bullet hole in the hip bone. And they took it down to a local doctor. He looked at it, said he thought it was human, couldn't tell the age, couldn't ID who it was. And in 1923, they even stated that Kenneth Herron's disappearance may stay a mystery for eons to come. They never did find a rifle. They searched the area around the hip bone. They didn't find a belt. They didn't find shoes. They didn't find anything. So, really, what happened to Kenneth? When you think about it, you have point of separation. You have a subgroup of him being a hunter. They're in a cluster zone. Weather wasn't an issue. And he was never identified as being found. And when you think about his brother Harold having to live with the fact that he was the last one to see his own brother alive, that's a head trip that I wouldn't want to live with. So, Kenneth Herron, 15, New Mexico. Next story involves a young girl named Loretta Doan, D-O-A-N, 3 years old. Missing July 4th, 1946 at noon, northeast of Livington, Kentucky. Her father and her 9 other brothers and sisters and her mom homesteaded a piece of property way off the beaten track, and the dad was farming the hillside, very remote. It was a half-mile from the closest dirt road. There was no road to the house. It was a small log cabin. And on July 4th, Loretta, at 3 years old, went with 2 older sisters to the local spring to wash the family clothes. Well, as the older girls are doing the washing, they let Loretta go just a short distance away to a grapevine swing. And after a couple minutes, they turned around, she was gone. Well, that night, they got a massive search together. And the search lasted for weeks. It rained during the search. There was inclement weather. They had 500 searchers for this area of Kentucky. That is phenomenal. Now, here's a map. This is Livington. This is where the homestead was. This is Mount Vernon, Kentucky. This area still is very, very undeveloped and wild. I've had a lot of friends that have spent time in Kentucky. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of strange stories that come out of that area. Very strange. So when I first got this story, I spent a long time vetting it, trying to get the facts right. There were a series of bloodhounds that were brought in to search. And near the end of the week searching, where they didn't find anything, bloodhounds didn't find anything, the sheriff said that he thought that the girl had to have been abducted. But friends, as I've told you 100 times, law enforcement tends to think this way when after a huge effort to locate someone, they can't find him. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because a little girl, you're going to find her. She's not going to go that far, etc. That's the belief. Well, this happened on July 4th, 1946. Fast forward about 6 months to December 1946, and 2 coon hunters were on an old logging road, and they found a partially buried dress, and they looked underneath, and they thought they saw a skeleton, and they knew about Loretta. They get the sheriff, and they bring a team out, and they remove the skeleton. And there's still some remains of the dress that Loretta was wearing, and that dress was identified by the father. Searchers said that that area where the dress was found and the skeleton was found was searched heavily. The coroner's report was confusing. It said death was unnatural, but it could have been accidental. And the sheriff said he thought the body was placed there to be found. Friends, humbly speaking. How many times have I said that it almost appears as though the body is placed there to be found? It's in an area that has been searched. It's been previously searched. So who put it there? Why would it be placed to be found? Why didn't they find a cause of death? Probably because of deterioration of the skeleton. So what happened to little Loretta? How did she get away from that swing and her sisters? Why wouldn't she respond to searchers calling out her name, asking, "Loretta, Loretta, come here, we're here to help"? Little girl would have heard that, she would have come out. It's a tough case. Tough case. But to get 500 people in that area of Kentucky to search for 10 days for a 3-year-old girl and find nothing? Sorry, folks. I don't buy it. Doesn't make sense to me. Especially when the other searchers say that they've searched that logging road. And you know, an old logging road, if you've been in the woods much, it's a really easy area to traverse through the woods on. Old logging roads are great. Okay, the next case, a national park case. Sequoia National Park. If you've never been there, really pretty place. Giant sequoia trees. It's right next to Kings Canyon and Yosemite National Park. In this instance, Donald Newman, 35 years old, went missing on June 25th, 1964. He was the chief scientist and the naturalist for the park. This would have been his 3rd year being the naturalist there. And each summer he brought his family back to work the summer as the chief scientist naturalist. He was a professor at San Jose State University. He had a PhD from the University of California at Berkeley. He was described as brilliant. He was a very, very strong hiker, in excellent shape, and he knew the outdoors in Sequoia National Park like you know your backyard. He left an area called Lodgepole, and he was going to do an overnight hike to Lion Rock. Easy, easy hike up and back. Well, he didn't return, and immediately the park sent out a massive search team. So, one of the areas that they believed he was going to walk through was a place called Tocopaw Canyon and Tocopaw Falls. Now, these falls are not like your normal straight down waterfall. This is a gradual tumbling location. Let me show you. This is Tocopaw Falls. It's beautiful, but it's a cascading falls. Falls 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet. It's not like you can fall here and end up down here. That's the perception I want you to have and the reality of it. So, it's a search that goes on for weeks. And they're frustrated. They're frustrated because canines can't pick up a scent. They're not finding any evidence of where he might have been, but they knew from what he told them that he would stay on his hiking path through Tocopaw, which was the only location they thought that anything could have ever happened. Well, he disappeared on June 25th. Search was terminated on about July 10th. July 14th, 2 off-duty Park Service employees were at Tocopaw Falls. And they were walking amongst some boulders. And there they found Donald Newman. They were stunned. And the search and rescue person, a man named James Corson, stated to the press he was stunned. They had searched within feet of where that body was found. And the area had been searched numerous times. Hey, don't go in there. So, a couple of things. They said that they thought he had fallen 1,000 feet. Not at the Tokopah Falls that I showed you. Now, as I've stated many times in the past, the people that disappear under these extreme conditions are found in locations that don't make any sense. I've said this 100 times. And more times than not, they're found by people unrelated to the search, which is unusual. Especially since Mr. Corson made it a point to say that the area that he was eventually found in had been searched many times and they had passed within feet of the body. Now, canines can smell for miles. Friends, how did they not smell Donald? How? It's a tough one. Family was devastated. They couldn't believe it. A simple, easy hike ended up in extreme tragedy. Now, there are cases in Yosemite, well, obviously people accidentally fall off cliffs, etc. That's not the surprising fact. I've written about cases in Yosemite where the reports stated that the person where they fell ended up so far away from the ledge that they had to have fallen off of that it was like they were, quote, launched. That was the words from the search and rescue and the Park Service personnel. Launched. Well, if they weren't launched, then they were dropped. Right? And if they were dropped or they were launched, by who or what? These are not cases that Park Service personnel want to talk about because they can't explain it. And that's not something that's in their vocabulary. But I can keep telling you about this. And until we come up with some evidence that being dropped falls in line with something in our world, I can't explain it. But I'll just give you the facts. I can tell you that canines are not that bad. Canines do not miss this many people. Think about how many cases I've told you about right here on this channel in the last year and a half. And how many times canines cannot find the body. Do I really think that they are that worthless? Not a chance. I've seen dogs work. I've seen successful dogs be 100% successful. No, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. But in Sequoia, as in Yosemite, tons of granite. In this case, he disappeared right next to water, the falls. Boulders. Found in an area previously searched. Falls right in line with what I've talked about. So, I want you to understand that each one of these cases, when I do the background on them, bothers me. Sometimes I vision Donald's family back at Lodgepole getting told that their dad and their husband is dead. I have that vision. I can see the mom and the kids just devastated. They got to go home without a dad. Live a life without a dad. In the Doan family, yeah, they had 10 kids. I don't care who you are. You love your 9th kid as much as you love your first kid. And to know that your child disappeared on your property at a spring, how do you ever trust other kids going back there? I don't know. And then Ken Herron, his brother Harold, living with the nightmare of knowing that he was the last one to see his brother. And why was Harold the one lucky enough to get out alive and Ken didn't? Where did Ken go? All questions I ask all the time. What am I missing? What is going on here that I don't understand? I think I'm getting closer. I really do. A lot of it is because of you. You have opened my mind up to many things over the years, and I appreciate it. And all of you who came to the Colorado MUFON meeting this last weekend in the Centennial, it was a phenomenal meeting. Great questions. Smart group. I'm humbled that you showed up. And I'm not going to be at a lot of events this year because I really don't like going to many where I have to travel 3 different airports to get to one location. But I'm going to be in Washington early in the summer. And then I'm going to be in Kentucky late in the year. And I'll give you more information on that later. But thanks for the friendship. Thanks for for sticking with me and thinking outside the box and trying to understand what is going on in our world at many levels. And if you haven't, in between the 2 missing videos that I'll put up this week, there's going to be a couple of news broadcasts, and please indulge and see if you like it. Do something nice for somebody. Be a good person, and Huck and I will talk to you soon. And say hi, Huck. All right, you guys, take care. Paulides out.